water the good seed on the land, but it is fed and watered by God's almighty hand. He sends the snow in winter, the warmth to swell the grain, the breezes and the sunshine, and soft refreshing rain.
Matthias Claudius wrote our lyrics in 1782. This is some of the things that were happening in 1782. If you've seen Hamilton, some of these people will be familiar. Robert Morris asked the United States Congress to recommend establishment of a national mint and decimal coinage. Britain's Parliament advises King George III to make peace with the rebels of America, paving the way for the Peace Conference. Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, and John Jay represented the United States at the conference in Paris. The bald eagle is chosen as the emblem of the United States, and the design for the Great Seal of the United States is adopted. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart's opera Die Entführung aus dem Serail, or The Abduction of the Seraglio, makes its debut. George Washington orders the creation of the Badge of Military Merit, which later becomes the Order of the Purple Heart. Matthias Claudius was born in Rheinfeld, Germany. He grew up in the home of a Lutheran pastor and briefly studied theology at the university. Finding little attraction to this subject, he turned to obtaining his education in law and languages, ultimately being known as a poet and literary editor. After serving as a private secretary to a Danish count, he moved to Wandsbek, a borough of Hamburg, and joined the staff of the Hamburg news agency, editing the literary portion of the Wandesbeker Bote, and contributing a number of his poems. In 1776, he was appointed one of the commissioners of agriculture of Hesse-Darmstadt, and editor of the official newspaper there. At Darmstadt, he became acquainted with Goethe and a circle of free-thinking philosophers. However, he became ill, and during this severe illness, he realized that his life was spiritually empty. So he embraced his lapsed faith with pietistic fervor. He wrote many devotional poems. We Plough the Fields Together were built upon words he had heard sung by local farmers, was first published in the Asinus Omnia Sua Secum Portans in 1782. This peasant's song/poem had 17 stanzas with a refrain that began Im Anfang war's auf Erden, in the beginning was on earth. Stanzas were eventually cut, drastically reduced, and the third verse became the first verse as we know it today. The poem was translated by James Montgomery Campbell in 1861. In 1861, we had the first description of Archaeopteryx. In order to help pay off the Civil War effort, the United States government issued the first income tax. The Great Comet of 1861 is discovered in Australia and becomes quite the sensation. The first steam-powered carousel opens in Bolton, England. The American Civil War begins with the bombardment of Fort Sumter, South Carolina. Oil refining begins in Pennsylvania, and the Union, using whaling ships for naval blockades of the South, contribute to the decline and eventual closing down of whaling. The telegraph connects the west coast of the United States to the east coast, bringing an end to the Pony Express. Jane Montgomery Campbell was the daughter of the Reverend Campbell, rector of St. James, Paddington. She is known both as a writer of English verse and as a translator of German hymns, contributing a number of her translations to several songbooks of the time. She also published a handbook for singers containing musical exercises for children she taught in her father's parish school, where she also taught them this hymn, her most famous translation. Johann Abraham Peter Schultz. His tune was published in 1800. In 1800, they discovered the Wild Boy in southern France. It was the first performance of Beethoven's First Symphony. The Library of Congress was established. Jean-Baptiste Lamarck outlines his theories of evolution. Believe it or not, it becomes illegal for women to wear trousers in Paris without a police permit, and this stays on the books until 2013. It was a colonial world in 1800. Canada was a colony of Great Britain. Alaska, down through parts of California, were a colony of Russia. Mexico, Central, South America, and the western United States were all colonies of Spain. Alessandro Volta constructed a voltaic pile. This was the first device to produce a large electric current, later to be known as an electric battery. Johann Schultz began his organ studies at the age of 15, even though his papa, a baker's son who also was a town musician, wanted him to become a Lutheran pastor. The tune first appeared in Lieder für Volksschulen mit Musik, edited by Hoppenstedt. After moving to Berlin in 1768, Schultz became teacher and accompanist to a Polish princess, and from Berlin they toured all throughout Europe. He was a well-regarded composer and performer, writing in the classical style. Became music director of the Berlin French Theater in 1776, director of music for Prince Henry of Prussia, and Kapellmeister in Rheinsberg. In 1782, he became the director of the Royal Danish Theatre, a position he held for 18 years. His Copenhagen gig came to an end by a breakdown of his health after trying to save the music library in Copenhagen during a fire in 1795. He composed many works. Arguably, we know him more for the hymn we sing at the beginning of Christmas Eve when the children put the crèche together.